Okay. First of all, good evening. Today we will learn Likutei Moharan. We'll continue Torah Chaf. And tonight's shir is dedicated לעילוי נשמת Chaim Yosef Menachem ben Boruch Binyomin Zeev. That's my daughter's-in-law grandfather that unfortunately passed away from corona this evening. So the shir is dedicated to לעילוי his neshama. So, a short recap. Rena brings a sefer Tzniusa, a quote from Sefer Tzniusa, the third perek, that 9 extraordinary, precious, and exalted, and therefore concealed tikkunim were given to the beard. And we were talking specifically about the beard of Zeir Anpin. And we're not talking about the beard of Arich Anpin, which has 13 tikkunim, but rather the beard of Zeir Anpin has 9 tikkunim. These tikkunim are extremely precious, and we went through the various, parts of the physical beard that represent b'derech mashal, the principle of the tikkunei hazakan, because the messages of Kabbalah are so abstract, and they're basically talking about interrelations between principles that the only way to give us any kind of grasp of what these tikkunim are and what's going on. So the Zohar and the Arizal along the Kabbalah, they use the limbs and the parts of the body to explain, to talk about these very lofty concepts that are otherwise impossible to touch. And later on, we will understand what B'ezrat Hashem, I don't know how much we'll understand, but we'll know each one of these tikkunim, these inyanim, how they are explained, what they are nigeya. So right now the Rebbe is giving us a Torah, and at the end of the Torah we will understand what each one of the 9 rectifications talks about. So first we learn that there is a neshama in the world. There's a neshama in the world through which all the biurei Torah, perusha Torah, all the explanations, the commentaries are that's the source. Everything is revealed through this neshama. V'hi mesuberes b'yisurin. And this neshama is lo aleinu, it is fraught with great suffering. Rabbeinu also mentions in Torah Samechei, in teaching number 65, that's the Torah of that you should know that there is Vayom Boaz a root, that there is a garden and a tremendously beautiful, unbelievably beautiful garden. And the plants that grow in that garden are the souls. And some souls are outside the garden. And they are roving, some souls are roving naked outside the garden. Naked means that they don't have Torah and mitzvahs and masim tovim. They didn't do them in this world, so they don't have what to wear, as we learn in Sichas Haran. And Rabbeinu says that even a big neshama of a really great Jew, you know, if it goes out of this particular field, you know, then it's very hard to come back. Rabbeinu says that all these neshamas are waiting for the Baal HaSoda, the owner of the field, or the owner of the orchard, the owner of the garden, however you want to call it. And there too, Rabbeinu says that in order to become the leader, the owner of the garden, a person, a tzaddik, has to be extremely strong and mighty, huge tzaddik and wise, and he says because a lot of suffering must be endured by somebody who takes upon himself to be the Baal HaSoda. So we see the same concept over here. And he says, in this neshama, but over here he says that what happens is that when this neshama passes away, he says that all the diburim of this neshama are typified by the fact that they are hot, like burning coals. And today we will learn that the speech, the diburim that are hot as burning coals are necessary to get the Chidush Torah. Just give me a second. Says that the words which are as hot as burning coals are the tools with which you draw Chidush Torah. And he says that the minute that this particular neshama, its diburim becomes cool, and as they're no longer burning, like burning coal, this neshama passes away. Interestingly enough, in Teres Samechei, Rabbeinu says that the tikkun neshamas are being done by, there has to be a huge person to be able to affect it. It says even a person that is really, 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 really great, sometimes, he can only correct us all the neshamas by passing away. It has to be extraordinarily huge in order to be able, to fix everything. And it says when this neshama passes away, then the clarity in the Dibur Torah is lost. And when the clarity in explaining what the Torah is saying is no longer available, that causes machloikes and the tzaddikim. The people don't know why it is that they all of a sudden get up and have machlokas and the tzaddikim. But the hidden reason is that the Torah has become unclear. Because that neshama that is the source of all the commentaries, of all the explanations of what the Torah means, when it passes away, suddenly everything becomes cloudy. Again, interestingly enough, in Torah 65, Rabbeinu says that the Baal HaSoda, when people are doing Torah Shel Makom, his eyes are shining. And if not, then they dim. We're dealing with very similar concept, but different area of the concept. Here we're talking about the Dibur Torah of what happens when this neshama has already passed away. And sure enough, a machlekes starts. So now, Rabbeinu explains. We're starting in Siman Beis, the second Siman of the Torah. And anybody that would like to draw down explanations, Chidush Torah. Now, after this neshama, that all this neshama's words are hot like burning coals, and that neshama brought down to the world the explanations, the clarity in the Torah, and all the commentators of the Torah got their Chidush Torah from that neshama. Now, when it passed away, the Chidush Torah are gone. It's not available. So that's why somebody who wants to be mamshich the Chidush Torah now, tzorich mitchilo lahamshich la'atzmoi. First of all, yes, before he draws the Chidush Torah, first of all, he has to draw from above diburim which are hot as burning coal. Because the diburim that are hot as burning coal are the tools. These are the pails with which you draw from the well of Chidush Torah. And this is how he's able to mamshich b'Torah Torah. And this is, the question is, why do you need, burning diburim in order to bring about the Chidush Torah? Why isn't it enough to have an analytical mind, or just to be very creative? Why do you need diburim which are hot as burning coal? And that is because, as Yirmiyahu or Navi said, when he told the people that were listening to the false prophets, and he said, can't you see the difference between my nevuah and the nevuah of the false prophets? And he used the words, ala kodvari ke'esh. You see that my words are hot like fire, and theirs aren't. So in order for it to be a teres emes, it has to be, the words of Hashem are hot like fire. The words of Hashem are like fire. So you need diburim that as hot as burning coals to be able to draw down, to be mamshich b'Torah Torah. And only somebody who has such diburim, he's able to be mamshich such a Torah and to draw them. Now, okay, but where do you get it from? This is about dibur, this kind of hot dibur, nimshach, it comes from this supernal aspect, Inyan, which is called Leva Elyon, the supernal heart, which is the Shechina, it's Bechinas Malchus. And this is Bechinas Tzur Levavi. Tzur Levavi is the strength of my heart. So Tzur Levavi is Chelki Hashem Elokim Leolam. This is what the Damar said. In this pasuk, he says that basically the pasuk pshat of this pasuk, Tzur Levavi v'Chelki Elokim Leolam, means that Kadosh Baruch Hu is the strength of my heart and my part forever. That's the pshat. But Rabbeinu here explains in a deeper inyan, his meramas, that there is such a reality in the upper world that is called Tzur Levavi, the rock, the strength of my heart, the rock of my heart. Tzur means something very hard, very, very strong. So Tzur and rock become synonymous, even though Tzur actually means the strength. There used to be, in the olden days, they used to make fire with stones, with very, very hard stones. These stones are called avnei tzur. They used to make arrowheads with this kind of rock. So even tzur means a very, very strong stone. But the point that a rock and the tzur are one thing. So tzur levavi, with the strength of my heart, the heart which is the strength of the world. And Rabbeinu says as follows: "V'tzarich lishpoich sichosei betfilo l'fnei Hashem zman." And a person needs to pour his tefillah for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that and beg HaKadosh Baruch Hu to give him b'Torah Torah, that he should be able to zoche to mamshech the Torah. He should be able to zoche to have diburim chamim ka'esh and draw the commentaries of the Torah to explain the Torah. Now that philosophy, and it is through his tefillah, nichmeru rachamei Hashem yisbarach alav. Through his tefillah, the compassion of HaKadosh Baruch Hu open over him, V'niftach leva elyon, and that supernal reality, which is called the supernal heart, opens. When it says kikar rachamim balev, because the main place of compassion is in the heart. So that's why when the Kadosh Baruch Hu's rachamim, his compassion, has been awakened, so kaviyachol, the heart opens. Like when you have rachmanis to somebody, it's like your heart opens. The place of the rachamim is in the heart. And what happens then? V'nishpa me'alev elyon diburim. What happens is that from that supernal heart, that person gets an influx of diburim, which are as hot as burning coals. But that dibur, and it is through such dibur, which is as hot as burning coal, mamshich b'Torah gam kemisham. In other words, the supernal heart is the source of both the tool with which you bring the Torah, and it's the source of the Torah itself. So we are talking about a two-stage process. First of all, you have to beg HaKadosh Baruch Hu to give you proper diburim that can contain Chidush Torah, real Chidush Torah that will help people, that will bring people to the Tachlis. And once you're able to beg HaKadosh Baruch Hu for that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu listens to you and he pours it out, he gives it to you, then with these diburim, you draw down dibur Torah from that place, from Leva Elyon. So now Rabbeinu is going to explain how do we know that the dibur, which is hot as burning coal, comes from the supernal heart. And from where do we know that the Torah commentaries and explanations originate from the supernal heart? And it says as follows: V'levanal, in this particular heart, u'pchinas sela, is an aspect of a rock, of a sela. As we'll explain. Shemishama dibur, from the sela, from the rock, this is where the dibur comes, the speech comes. B'pchinas milei besela. Again, Rabbeinu here unveils a secret that is buried under a chazal, a mama chazal, that the Pashat Pshat seems to mean something totally different. But underneath, there's a hidden message. And it says as follows. The Gemara in Megillah says that milei besela, words you can buy in a currency that during Chazal's time was called a sela, a rock. It's a certain currency. It says mishtoka betrein. However, you buy words with one sela, and silence, not talking, is worth two slime. Being quiet is more worthwhile than talking. In other words, if you want to buy a dibur besela, if you want to actually acquire the ability to speak worth a sela, Chazal give you a good advice. Keep your mouth shut, worth two slime. Then you will listen and you will learn, And then you'll have Torah to teach. You'll have Torah that is worth a selah. So he says, Mila b'selah, the words in a selah are acquired through 2 selah worths of keep your mouth closed. And inside that, Chazal, have, a remez that the dibur, mile b'selah, that the words, milim is dibur, is words, are in selah. They are in a concept called a rock. V'selah b'chinas tzur, and a rock is tzur. This is what we said. B'chinas, as we said in Tehillim, posach tzur ve'ezumamayim. He opened up a tzur, Moshe Rabbeinu, he opened up a tzur, he opened up a rock, and here the word tzur is used. Ve'ezumamayim, and water poured out. So you see here that tzur is a synonym of selah, of a rock. So this is already, we established that the dibur is b'chinas tzur, b'chinas selah. This we know. Now the Rebbeinu ties it, v'hu b'chinas lev, and the rock, the tzur, is an aspect of a heart, b'chinas shenemar tzur levavi, the rock of my heart. Yet my heart is my strength. The strength of a person is in the heart. And since the B'china of Lev Elyon is Tzur, and the Tzur is Selah, from Selah comes the Dibur, being when we said that the Dibur, Mila B'Selah, the Selah is the source of Dibur. So now the Dibur comes from Selah. Selah is B'china's heart, right? So the Dibur comes out of the Lev Elyon. We have proven the connection that the Dibur, the Had Dibur, comes from the supernal heart. So the first goal of explaining how do we know that Diburim come from Lev Elyon was accomplished. And when a person pours his dibur, his heart, in tefillah b'far Hashem Yisbarach, halev nichma b'rachamim, the supernal heart becomes filled with compassion. Umashpia diburim chamim, and it bestows upon this person hot, molten diburim that are hot as molten lava. B'chinas, as it says over there, Tehillim cham libi bekirbi, b'hagigi tivaresh. My heart is so hot inside me. B'hagigi, with my words will burn a fire. So the hot heart, when the heart is, when we say that Nichmeru Rachamov, it says Nichmeru is also the lotion of warmed up. I don't know if you remember, but in Megillas Eicha, when it says that the skin of the people of Yerushalayim, because of the hunger, looked burnt. It dried out. It looked like it was burnt. It's a nichmar oiram. It's like nichmar it's like the skin looked burnt. It's nichmar rachamim. It means that the rachamim, there's an influx of warmth, of heat in the heart. This is where compassion comes from. It's a very important point because the chasadim are like water. And water are cool. But rachamim is not just chesed. Compassion is not just chesed. Rachamim, compassion, is chesed that flows through the gvura. The gvura is fire. In other words, chesed, which is uncontrolled, is actual cruelty. If you just take a child and just give him everything, you're being cruel to him, to that person, to the child. It has to be mitigated. It's mitigated with its symptom. It has to go through the gvuras. So if chesed is water and gvura is fire, rachamim means hot water. Only then is it rachamim, because rachamim is when you give the person, the child, whoever, that which is best for them. You don't deny them that which they should be given, and you don't give them that which they should not be given. It's measured. What's best for them. This is true rachamim. So nichmeru rachamei Hashem, that the compassion of Kodesh Baruch Hu has warmed up, means in the soul. This is when the heart is mashpia diburim chamim. B'fchinas cham libi bekirbi. My heart is hot inside me. Ba'agigi, in my speech, tivar esh. In my thought, a fire is burning. Dibarti b'lashoni. This is what comes out in my speech. So here we know what is alluded over here, that in the leva elyon, the supernal heart contains hot diburim. And the second thing, ubeleva zeh, in that heart, ksuvim kol bi'ura Torah. It's another Moradik Chiddush. In that supernal heart, all the explanations, all the clarity of the Torah is in that heart. B'fchinos, as it is says on Torah, about Divrei Torah, Kosvam aluch libecha, write it on the tablet of your heart. So the heart is called a tablet on which the Torah is written. So here we find that the Diburei Torah are written in that Bechina, that supernal reality, which is called the supernal heart. Now, Misha writes Lakachat Ezebir, in anyone who wants to take any kind of beer, any kind of explanation, any kind of bring some clarity to the Torah, tzarich lo likach ma'levana. He has to take from that heart. How? B'tefillah, with davening. B'tefillah v'bevakosha, with davening and with begging, with supplication. This is why anybody who wants to explain the Torah, he wants to clarify the Torah, he wants to commentate, to give a commentary that will open our eyes and we'll understand what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is trying to tell us. Before he starts to explain any kind of explanation, first of all, he has to pour his heart out before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because he has a function, he has a step that he has to accomplish. There's a task that he needs to accomplish. And that task is to awaken the supernal heart, to bestow upon him these molten lava words, these hot words. And afterwards, after he davens, after he begs, then he should start explaining. Because once you daven, once you ask Kadosh Baruch Hu, and supernal heart is opening, then the tzur, the supernal heart opens, and its waters start to flow. In other words, the explanations of the Torah. And this Bechina was by Moshe Rabbeinu, as we said before. In Ot Aleph, we explain that when the neshama, which is Bchinas Miriam, that brings Biur Torah, has passed away, and the Biur Torah passed away. So Moshe Rabbeinu had to bring the Biur Torah and to all those who teach the Torah. In other words, Moshe Rabbeinu had to substitute for that neshama, or rather, he had to bring down, it's not he had to substitute to somebody else's neshama, but it means the aspect of this neshama, the aspect of the neshama that brings down the Biur Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu is the one who brought down the Torah. But this aspect of Biur Torah has left the world at that point in time. And Moshe Rabbeinu had to reconstitute it and bring Biur Torah so everybody will be able to teach Torah, so everybody will be able to learn Torah. That's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu has ordered him to speak to the Selah, to speak to the rock. This is Maramas that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him that he should pour his heart, that he should daven in tefillah to Hashem's Baruch and awaken Hashem's compassion, which are in the supernal heart, which is a Selah. And thus, thusly we'll draw from that Selah, which is Aleva Elyon, the explanations of the Torah. It's fascinating the parallels between this and Torah Sanachet. Rabbeinu 65. Rabbeinu says that the Baal HaSada, the owner of the field, he needs to bring each and every neshama to its tachlis. He talks about dibur, about davening. And he says that a person needs to pour out, to speak to HaKadosh Baruch Hu from the deepest place of his being. And then when a person speaks from that deepest place, from his heart, when you speak diburim from the bottom of your heart to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you awaken the Lev HaElyon. We find this Bechina again, that when there is a Sarusa Del Tata, when there's an awakening from below, it brings about a bestowment, plenty that flows from above. It's extremely interesting that Rabbeinu brings here Milei Besela. You know, when you want to learn Likutei Moharan in any kind of eon, any kind of depth, you need to look, when Rabbeinu brings a proof, you need to look at all, at the entire pasuk, because Rabbeinu only brings usually just like 2 words of the entire verse. Question is, what is the rest of the verse saying? When Rabbeinu brings a Ma'amar Chazal, you need to look at what is the complete statement of Chazal, because that will give you a deeper insight to what Rabbeinu is saying. So we say Milei Besela. The basic thing that Chazal said, as if you want to buy, if you want to acquire Dibur Torah, worth a sela, which is a currency that was there, Bitcoin, I don't know what. It says, Mishtoka B'Shnayim, be silent, worth 2 slime. 2 sellers. That will enable you to learn and understand the Torah. So you'll be able to, give over the Dvar Torah, which is worth something, which has Tov in it. Rabbeinu says it and Rabbi Nosson says it. Nosson says it in Likutei Halachos quite a few times. It has to do with Sfiras Omer. It has to do with Elul. When you come to speak to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it is very common for somebody to come and sit before HaKadosh Baruch Hu and feel very pressured to say something. And he doesn't have what to say. He doesn't have words. What should I talk about? I don't feel Hashem's presence. If I were to call a friend on the phone and I will speak to him on the phone, whoa, man, if you're able to see him face to face, I can pour in my heart, man, I can talk 200 miles an hour for days. And I still haven't touched a percentage of what I have to say. I come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I feel blocked. I feel as if my heart is covered with stone. You know what I mean? I can't open my heart. It's like this crust over my heart, like an object that has been on the sea for centuries. You know how they're crusted with rust and salt and rock and there's a layer of rock over my heart. As Rabbeinu says, this is v'asirosi milchem leva even, and it should take away from you the heart of stone. V'asati lechem lev basar, and I will give you a heart of flesh. So I come to Kadosh Baruch Hu and I feel like my heart is made of stone. We all want to speak to Kadosh Baruch Hu. We all want to open up. We all want to pour before Hashem Baruch everything which is on our minds. As Ibn Nosson says, the Likutei Tefillah, our needs are virtually endless. There isn't a single area of my life that I notice that it isn't lacking. That's not because my life is lacking. No. It's what I notice. I only notice that which is lacking. Everything which is not lacking, I take for granted. 99.99999% of all my existence is Boruch Hashem, everything is fine. But so I don't notice it anymore. I take it for granted. Of course, what would you expect? But it's that thing which I notice. If it's parnasa, if it's shlom bayis, if it's health, if it's this, if it's that, it's a relationship, whatever, whatever it is, each and every person. I see it, and I wish with all my heart that I should speak, I should be able to pour before HaKadosh Baruch Hu and beg him and speak to him, and how I wish I'll be able to cry because the gates of tears have never been locked. And I can't shed a tear because my heart is encrusted like a rock. Because my heart is encrusted like a rock. So I sit there and I cannot open my heart. So Rabbeinu here gives an unbelievable remez when he says that the dibur comes from the cellar. He said mila besela. Okay, so that's like a play on words. The pasuk say mila besela. Okay, so we know that the mila is in the cellar. The words are in the cellar, in the supernal heart, in the leva elyon. Okay. But Chazal said mila besela mishtoka b'shnayim. And if you want to learn the Likutei Moharan, as we said, with a little bit of depth, you look at the rest of the Ma'amar Chazal. The Rabbeinu does not bring the first. If you want to acquire a word that is worth a selah, say Chazal, and they may basically mean about teaching Torah, so keep your mouth shut, worth 2 sellahs. Listen, learn Torah, then you'll have it. But Rabbeinu here gives us an unbelievable eitzah that Ibn Nosson repeats again and again and again. When you come to Kadosh Baruch Hu, and you step into the room or you step into the feld or whatever it is, and you feel like you don't even know what on earth am I doing here. And my heart is totally elsewhere. Rabbeinu says, Ibn Nosson says, first of all, be quiet. Keep quiet. It also says it's an admission that we are like a behemoth. We're like a beast, like an animal that doesn't have words. I sit before HaKadosh Baruch Hu and I look up. I look up and I beg HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Let me say, hold on, let me get a message that I can't talk right now. I beg HaKadosh Baruch Hu to give me words, to give me diburim, to have rachmanas on me. The way to open up your heart is to open up HaKadosh Baruch Hu's heart. And the way that you open up HaKadosh Baruch Hu's heart is that you sit before HaKadosh Baruch Hu with shtika, with silence, with your eyes looking up, and you wait. You sit there and you wait until HaKadosh Baruch Hu opens the heart, the Lev Elyon, and gives you the diburim. You can thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu to please give you the diburim. But the main thing that you do is Nishtoka betray. Shtika worth two slime. There's a hint to in Chazal that Chazal said that a drop doesn't come down from above of water, of rain, doesn't come down from above until two drops come from underneath. Isaros adol tata. Shtika betray. And I'm telling you right now, Be'ezer Hashem, if you go to daven, to speak to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you find that you're blocked, just sit there and wait. Wait for the Lev Elyon. Wait for the Lev Elyon. And after you come up from the Lev Elyon, you start with a little dibur, and you say, please give me diburim. Open up my mouth. Give me diburim in my mouth. And then suddenly you will find yourself, already into it. You speak about this, you speak about that. You don't even know how you got to speak about that. And then suddenly you clam up. Your mind wanders. It's okay. The fact that the mind wanders is an admonishment. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells me you're still a shtickle behema. But nevertheless, you trust the HaKadosh Baruch Hu that what you have spoken has been spoken and has been heard and has been accepted. No single, if the Zohar says that not single intention, good intention, ever gets lost, how much more so the dibur that you are zeicher to pour before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to speak in his meditators. This was Siman Beis. We learned This Torah, as I said before, לעילוי, נשמת Chaim Yosef Menachem, ben Boruch Binyomin Zeev, who is my daughter's-in-law's grandfather, who passed away today from Corona. L'aleinu, neshama should have an aliyah, and Bezrat Hashem, Kadosh Baruch Hu will remove all plague and all strife and all illness from all of us. Bezrat Hashem, we should be zeicher, Bezrat Hashem, to health and deliverance and everything. Geula Shleima, Mashiach Tzidkenu. You know, every single Nakuda Tova. It also says, somewhere in the Kazakh, it says, I think, I'm not sure. He says that every single Nakuda Tova, you know, RPB, the famous Torah, base, that every single Nakuda Tova is Pchinas Saris, is like, it's like a dot, a little dot. But, you know, the hair, you know, is the hair is a pipe. Every Nakuda Torah that you have is a tool with which the tzaddik gives you life and moichin. You're sitting there for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even if you can't say a word. But it says the yeshiva levad is great. Just sitting in a room, waiting to speak to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even if you can't say a single word, or you repeat one word again, 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 is tremendous. It's Nakuda Tova. But that's already a whole new in. You won't get into this. B'ezrat Hashem, everybody, B'ezrat Hashem, will have a good Shabbos. And B'ezrat Hashem, we'll see you all Motzei Shabbos in Sichas Haran. B'ezrat Hashem, I hope to start bringing over a little bit more El Dika Diburim. I saw some interesting things from David Wirtzman and from Rabbi Weinberger and Choshev Yidden, which I'd like to bring over to you.